Hello. In this introductory video, we're going to take a quick tour of the Dawn safety monitoring system, and in particular, we're going to focus on three key views. The first is the patient view, which I can access through this main menu option here, and which allows me to look at a patient's individual record. The next one is the list view, that allows me to see different groups of patients meeting different criteria or in different states. And the third is the home page that we're looking at here, which contains these dashboard panels that gives us summary information and alerts us to things that we need to look at. But let's start by searching for a patient. And I can do that by clicking this patient option on the menu. And when I do that, I'm presented with the search screen. Here I can search by name or by hospital number or NHS number or even other things like postcode. I can type the whole name or even just part of a name and hit enter or press the search button, and that will list anybody matching what I've typed. So in this case, anybody who has the word test in their name somewhere. Now that's a long list, so if I type the whole name, I can shorten it, and if I add another criterion like the first name, I can shorten that list further. I can see now it's the top patient that I want, so to open their record, all I need to do is click on the link. That brings up the main patient record for this patient. Let's take a moment to orientate ourselves with this screen. At the top, we have a banner which shows the patient name, their date of birth, and their hospital number. And then the rest of the screen is broadly divided into four quadrants. The top left quadrant here contains summary information about the patient and their treatment. It has something called a risk class, which we'll come to later. It gives me the ability to separate my patients into different clinics. For instance, I might want to have a shared care clinic. I might want people on a particular diagnosis like ankylosing spondylitis to be in a particular clinic. Or I might, if I'm arranging phlebotomy, have clinics set up as physical locations where the patients go for their blood tests. But if I don't need to do that, if I have no requirement to do that, then there is no need to select a clinic, and I'm not going to do that now. Underneath we have the patient's phone number. If they've got more than one, you can choose which one you see on this screen, and I see their age. Below that is the summary details about their diagnosis and the course of treatment they're on. I can see they started treatment in August, they're going to be on it indefinitely, and the drug they're actually taking is etanercept, Benepali. And here I have something called the therapy template. And what that does is really define which tests we are monitoring. Now all the test results are shown on the right hand side of the screen. And in the bottom half, I build up a test result history. So you can see we have columns for all the different tests and rows for each of the dates they've been tested, and that can go back a long way. So I get a really good informative history of their test results, what's normal for a patient, little periods where they've been abnormal. So I have all that at hand for reference. But in the top, I have their current results. Not all of them, just for those tests that are defined on the therapy template. So these are the ones we're actually actively monitoring the results for. And what Dawn will do to a large degree is do that for us. It will check all the results in the top panel. If they're in range, it will display a tick. If they're abnormal, it will flag them for our attention. And we'll see how it does that later. But before we do, let's spend just a little more time looking at this top panel. Now really, this is what we call a visit. That doesn't mean a consultation. It's not when a clinician is going to see the patient. Think of it more as a visit to the phlebotomist to have a set of tests done that you have requested and you want to review. And as we said, the results for those tests are shown in this top panel. They're analysed and a tick is shown if they're in range, or they're flagged for your attention if they're out of range, which is something we will look at shortly. Dawn will also suggest the next visit date based on the normal interval for treatment, which again is defined by the therapy template. And if we're happy with everything, in this case we can see the bar is green, which actually tells us there's nothing being flagged for our attention. We're happy with the next test date. What we can do is close this visit, close this review, if you like. And what Dawn will do is take this next test date and it will create a new visit with the due date of that, in this case November. And what we have is a new set of tests that don't have results yet. They're awaiting results. And the visit has a status of scheduled, which just means they're scheduled for the 24th of November. We don't have the results as yet. But we can see there's a difference between these tests at the top and these at the bottom. These have a field where we're expecting the result to go. These just have a kind of no entry sign, which doesn't mean they're inaccessible. It just means the result isn't required. Dawn will not insist on a result for ALP. It will expect a result for ALT. And if it doesn't get one, the patient will either be classed as a non-attender or as having missed test. And we'll see how we find those patients and what we do about them in a later video. And I just expanded that panel so I can see everything, but if I close it up again, it allows me to see the history, and that last set of results we were looking at before we closed the visit are showing in the history, and when we get new results for these, they will show on this top row. So where we see a blue line in the history, that's really where we've closed a visit, and that's the set of results for the last visit. That's the set of results for the one before that, and so on. Now we closed that last visit manually using the close button, but in cases where the patient has a full set of mandatory test results and everything's normal and the system has been able to recommend a next test date, Dawn will actually close those visits automatically. There's not really anything for us to do, and so it takes care of that for us. However, if any of the results are out of line, it will flag them for our attention. So how do we find patients who have been flagged for our attention? Well, what we can do is use the list view. The list view shows us lists of patients matching various criteria. And we have tabs for kind of different workflows. For example, these are all the patients who've missed their tests or are overdue for tests, whereas the work list is usually people who have results, but there's something for us to do with them. And there are various filters available. So we're looking at flagged and not referred or checked. We have ones for change of phase due. The phase is really the test interval. So if somebody's been on 2-week intervals, and now they're ready to move up to perhaps 4 weeks, they'll appear on that filter. But for now, let's concentrate on patients with abnormal results. But actually, there's an even easier way to find them. On the home page, on the dashboard, this work list dashboard panel actually tells us if there's anyone to look at. So we don't have to go down to the list view level unless we need to. And we can see here this first count is for patients with abnormal results. Really that list we've been looking at. It says there are 3 patients and it provides a link which is a shortcut to that list view. So if I click that, here we are, back at that list we were just looking at. Here are the 3 patients. And to open the patient's record, I don't have to then go and search for them. I can just highlight their row and one click with the mouse, and that brings up their record. And I can see in this case, this bar is red, indicating there are flagged results that I haven't yet dealt with. I can see it's sodium there, doesn't have a tick. It has a kind of high indicator, out of range on the high side, that's what that means. And there's a checkbox there that I will check off once I've dealt with it. But how we deal with that, we'll look at in the next video.